Today I'll be spending 100 days in Minecraft Pixelmon. But I won't just be roaming around the entire map, no, I have written myself down a couple of challenges that I want to complete. I want to get 8 different gym badges. I want to get 6 Pokemon to level 100. Capture a full team of shiny Pokemon, and at least capture 100 different species of Pokemon. And last but not least, we'll be hunting for a Rayquaza because that's my favorite legendary Pokemon. As for the question of the day, let me know what your favorite legendary Pokemon is in the comments down below. And if you want to see more Pixelmon videos, let me know by reaching 6,000 likes. With all of that out of the way, let's jump right into my 100 days in Minecraft Pixelmon. As I spawn in, I can choose my starter, and of course there's only one pick I can go with here, and that's Mudkip. Once I've spawned in, I immediately run into my first raid den, and if you manage to defeat these, you get a chance at the rare Pokemon that's inside, but you also get a bunch of free items after it. So we'll definitely be taking on a lot of them once we get a fully crafted team. I also tried to train up my little Mudkip here, but he's just a little bit too weak and dies to literally everything. Luckily, I easily found a Pokemon Center which also have a chest inside that's filled with items, and these items can be sold at a Pokemart which is always located in a village. A couple of minutes later, and I've already found my first village. After talking to the townspeople a little bit, I immediately headed on over to the Pokemon Mart to sell all of my items and buy a bunch of Pokeballs and Great Balls. I don't really have a source of food yet, so I decided to steal everybody's carrots. There's also a bunch of quests you can complete, but I won't be putting much of my focus into that because you will always have to go back to the person you got the quest from to redeem it, and sometimes those NPCs just despawn. After them finding my second village, I immediately saw that there was a gym in there. Even though my Mudkip is only level 8, I still decided to go in because it was a ground type gym. Of course, I got my ass beat in there, so I decided to take on a raid den, which gave me a bunch of experience, so my Mudkip leveled up, and now he was strong enough to take on some of the trainers, and eventually he even evolved into a Marsh Tom. We eventually found the gym leader, who was located somewhere underground. I guess he wanted to be a little bit like Rourke. But our level 20 Mudfish easily overpowered their entire team with his water gun. As a reward, I even got the Earthquake TM, which was super useful in this early game. And that also means we have the first gym badge of the 8 that we need to get. I went further to explore the desert and found a desert temple shortly after. These are filled with chests that mostly give you junk. Luckily, you can sell most of this junk and buy actual useful items with it. So after buying my first couple of Ultra Balls, I knew I was ready to start crafting some kind of team. But first I had to save Joy, who was trapped in this underground Pokemon Center. Who knows how long she's been down here. Once I was done there, I finally found my first team member, a Darumaka. He's a cute little fella, but I don't think I'll use him too much. I then decided to leave the desert and go to the total opposite, the sea. And I turned into a pirate and decided to plunder somebody's boat. There were some valuable items in there, like washing machines and stuff, but I decided to take the good rod instead. I then found my first ever boss Pokemon, an uncommon Sandaconda. After you defeat a boss, you get certain rewards, but these are of course different depending on which level of boss you fight. There are 6 levels of bosses, those being common, uncommon, rare, epic, legendary, and ultimate. And they range between 5 to 50 levels above your highest level Pokemon. I personally got a Life Orb as my first reward, which is something I'm pretty damn happy with. I then found this weird pink Diglett and I thought it was a shiny, but as it turns out, this game also has pink Pokemon. Just like in the anime where Ash finds an entire island full of them. I decided to add it to the team anyway because it did look really special. Because I'm still homeless, I slipped in the middle of a desert. I plundered another desert temple and found this really cool relic statue that sells for over 200,000 Pokedollars. So yeah, we just made some stonks. A Wailord then decided to sit on my team and destroy me, so I went back to the nearest town and entered a church, and in this church, my Marshtomp decided to evolve into a Swampert, which you can see through this little tiny window. I then defeated some more bosses in the desert and finally found myself a Vibrava, which I decided to capture because once I get myself a Flygon, I'll be able to fly on him, which will make exploring so much easier. Once I was done grinding a little bit on raid dens, I got a pop-up in the left corner of my screen. A shiny Skorupi had spawned near me, but it was nighttime, so I decided to go to bed and make it daytime so that I could see better. And shortly after, I found the tiniest little red Skorupi. And of course, I had to capture him, which means that we're 1/6 of the way there of our shiny team. I then got bored by the regular Minecraft pack, so I downloaded a Pixelmon resource pack that makes the world a lot cooler. But that's also all it does, it's just a reskin. This camera didn't seem too happy that I changed the resource pack, because he stomped my entire team into the ground. One day I'll be able to take on these Mega Evolution bosses, and then we'll take revenge. I tried to capture an inferior Generation 3 starter, but he didn't even want to be on my team. So then I roamed around the savannah and found a Pokemon Center and decided to make this my home. Don't worry, eventually we'll make our own home, but for now, I'll be living in this Pokemon Center. My Vibrava then evolved into a Flygon, which means I can go on beautiful rides through the sky. And I also managed to get my first ever Z Crystal from a Rhyhorn purple boss. And with all of this, we're now on day 13. So I'd say we're definitely making good progress. I then somehow knocked out an Electrike with a hidden ability, so apparently you can also find hidden ability Pokemon in the wild, which is pretty cool. And then I decided to do my first ever flight with Flygon Airlines. And I flew into a weird looking portal, which teleported me to Ultra Space. Ultra Space itself is pretty damn cool because there are these towers in there that are full with amazing loot. But beware, because it's also full of mobs that can actually hurt and kill you. And they're not Shuckles, but Shulkers. There's also anti-gravity in this realm, so you can jump higher and you take less falling damage. And after finding some amazing loot, I of course get hit by one of these Shulkers, I fly up into the sky and fall down to my death, losing all of my levels and amazing items that I've collected so far. And since I couldn't just head back there, my items are lost forever. But I didn't let that bring me down. I went straight back to exploring and found my second gym. And this one was a fire type gym, another one that we can easily take down with just Swampert and Flygon. The gym leader put up a little bit of a fight, but after earthquaking through everything, we get the TM for Flare Blitz, as well as the Volcano Badge. That's 2 acquired so far, 6 more to go. We roamed around a little bit more, found some villages, defeated some more raid bosses, and of course fed my Swampert some steroids. But then I found a town which seemed to be abandoned, but as I entered it, I got chased out of there by a bunch of zombies. I didn't even know those could be in Pixelmon. So yeah, I almost died. Luckily, I managed to outrun them and eventually run into my first Hisuian Pokemon, Hisuian Voltorb, which also confirms that every single Pokemon is available in Pixelmon. Eventually, we reached date number 20, on which we defeated the Pokemon mascot himself, and also captured another starter, this time a cute little Cyndaquil. A golem also blew up in my face, and while I was scavenging around in a town, a legendary Raikou spawned somewhere near me in a raid den. I looked around everywhere, but somehow, someway, I did not find this raid den with this Raikou in it, which means I have missed my first ever legendary spawn. But I did find some other raid dens with starters inside that I could capture, which made up for it a little bit. But out of one of these raid dens, I got myself an orb, which you can use to either capture Articuno, Moltres, or Zapdos if you find their shrine. So let's hope we manage to find one of those in the near future. These Mega Pokemon are still a thorn in my side as they managed to defeat me once again. One day I'll be able to defeat them though. But first I craft myself an anvil so I can make myself some iron plates or pokeballs if I want to. And I also decide to make old and new running boots, but I did not know that new running boots have durability, which means I just wasted 2 diamonds since they broke very, very quickly. But at least we can now zoom super fast. We are now at day 25, which means we're 1/4 of the way there. So I decided to spend some time filling out my Pokedex. So I got myself a very cool Blissey and Luxray out of Raid Dens. I then found a random really rare Typhlosion, but I accidentally knocked him out. As I was walking around my base, a shiny Electrike spawned somewhere near me, but for some reason I just couldn't find it because of all the high grass that was covering the area, and I must have just despawned it, which means that is our first shiny fail. Yeah, I'm not too happy about that one. Shortly after, though, I fought my new arch nemesis, Mega Scizor, and you'll later see why. But this time, he managed to beat me. I defeated some more bosses, captured some more Pokemon, and eventually another shiny would spawn. This time, it was an Arbok, and I thought that I was ready. Which I clearly wasn't, because it was nighttime and I didn't sleep, because apparently in the night you can see the sparkles of the shiny Pokemon way clearer. Even with that strategy and my good set of eyes, I still wasn't able to find this shiny Arbok for some reason, which means a second failed shiny. I then banged this anvil with my hammer and made some iron plates, and with these I could craft my very own PC. And of course I had to add my shiny Skorupi to the team immediately. While exploring another nearby town, I found a steel type gym. Luckily for us, the owner of the gym only had like level 35 Pokemon, so it was an easy sweep with Swampert and Flygon once again. And once I defeated him, I got the Mine badge. So we only got 5 more badges to go. And apparently next to the Steel-type gym was another Fire-type gym, but actually a different one from the one that we took on before. And it was one of the dangerous gyms ever, because I was fighting this guy, and you see my character there? Yep. I just fell in the lava and lost everything again. But since I'm stubborn, I tried my best at doing the gym again, only to fall in the water for a second time. That's Gym 2, Zwiggojr. Eventually, I was mowing down the trainers of the gym pretty quickly, and while I was taking on one of the trainers, a shiny Fluffy spawned behind me. I knew I couldn't go 3 missed shinies in a row, so I ended the battle quickly and headed out of the gym. This time it was actually pretty damn easy to spot, so we lobbed a couple of Ultra Balls at it and finally got our second shiny. And I think Fluffy and Ampharos are very cute shinies, so I am definitely happy with what I got. But we have some unfinished business with a gym leader. So Swampert showed him the biggest earthquake yet and sinked his entire gym into the lava. And in the process, we also grabbed the heat badge. 4 down, 4 more to go. I then stumbled upon a raid den with a Rampardos in it, one of my favorite fossil type Pokemon, and I know Rampardos is really rare in the wild, so I took my shot at capturing it, but it came out. With my tail between my legs, I headed back home and grabbed all of the rare candies I had collected up until this point, which was 17, and my Swampert was level 83. See where I'm going with this? Yeah, I spammed them full of candy and got him all the way up to level 100, which means one step closer to our level 100 team. And that only took us 34 days to do. I then found a traumatized Meowth, and I decided to give it shelter in my PC. My shiny Fluffy then evolved into a shiny pink Ampharos, who said that you should subscribe right now if you want to find a shiny Pokemon yourself. And then I talked to one of the most useless characters ever, the move tutors, because I never ever have the items needed to learn the moves that I want to learn. And by the time you run to your base and come back, they have despawned. While I was taking on more raid dens, a legendary Entei spawned somewhere near me while I was in the extreme hills. So I took to the skies and found it pretty quickly, but I definitely wasn't prepared for an encounter like this, as it somehow ate up all of my Pokeballs, which meant that I had to knock it out. Luckily, straight after that, something really cool spawned, a Mega Ampharos boss, and if I manage to defeat it, I get its Mega Stone, which means I can also Mega Evolve my very own shiny Ampharos. But even with my level 100 Swampert, I was not able to beat a level 150 Mega Ampharos. It just kept on one-shotting everything, and even if I would get a hit in, I would not do enough damage to even remotely put a dent into its HP. So I went back to exploring and I found this really cool looking tower, and at the top there was a chest with a couple of goodies in it, but they were mostly junk. Like sticks with knockback 1 on it, don't even know how that exists. While I was running around in the forest, a shiny squavid also spawned on me, and of course, I missed out on it once again. Yes, I'm getting very lucky with shiny spawns, but not that lucky with actually finding them. I did find a Heracross in the same forest, which is my favorite bug type, so you know I had to capture this one too. And a couple of seconds later, a legendary Heracross boss spawned, which is basically a mega one. So if I would beat it, I would get its Mega Stone as well, but it was once again way too strong for me to take out. I really need to buff up my team because Swampert alone can't keep carrying me. While I was flying home from the forest, a shiny Starly spawned right in front of me on day 39. This time I had it locked in my sights, which meant it was not getting away. I entered the battle with it, threw a couple of Ultra Balls, and finally added my third shiny to the dream team. I also found the liquidation TR for my Swampert, which is going to be way better than Hydro Pump, and a couple of seconds later my arch nemesis Mega Scizor once again spawned next to my base. This time I was ready as my Swampert took him out with a couple of earthquakes, getting me a Mega Stone. Sadly enough, it's one I can't use. Once I was battling a rare spawn Nidoking, a Victini also spawned. And as we all know, Victini is really tiny and there's a bunch of tall grass here, so I was super afraid that I wasn't going to be able to find it, but it literally spawned on top of me, which was very lucky. It was also right next to my house, so I knew I was getting this one no matter what. And once again, I lobbed some Ultra Balls at it, weakened it with my Swampert's Ice Punch, and finally captured my first, I want to say legendary, but it's actually a mythical, so we still don't even have a legendary Pokemon yet. But at least he has the funny number in special attack. I then flew up into an ultra space hole again, and while I was flying in it, a legendary Raikou spawned, which means it immediately despawned. And I was actually really mad about this one because I love Raikou, it's my favorite of the legendary dogs, and I would have loved to capture it. Since I couldn't just get back to the mainland and capture that Raikou, I decided to stay in Ultra Space, and I actually found a village here which I didn't think was possible. I did find some really cool loot in Ultra Space once again, and while I was fighting a raid den, another shiny spawned. This time it was a Yamask. But by the time I was finished with the raid, I'm pretty sure it had despawned because I checked the entire area and couldn't find it anywhere. This is turning into a meme at this point. I have failed so many shinies that I've lost count. At least I found a really cool Greasius orb which I can use to eventually capture Giratina if I manage to find a red chain. But we have to move on with life, so I went back to those towers and started slaying those Shulker mobs, because if you get 2 of their pieces, you can make yourself a Shulker box, which is basically a chest that you can take with you on the go. Once I got all of my pieces, I went back home to craft it. And of course, another shiny spawned once again. This time a Shinx, one of the best shinies out there with its beautiful golden colors, and I spotted it from across the lake, and this time I once again managed to capture it. 4 shinies down, 2 more to go, and I'm really happy with this one, even though it has a very bad nature. Mega Scizor is done bullying me, so I took out another one. And I was running out of space in my house to store things in, so I put up a bunch of chests. And also evolved my shiny Skorupi in the tiniest Drapion that you've ever seen. Oh, and my Shinx also immediately evolved into a Luxio. And after giving it one more candy, also into Luxray. And of course, after doing these evolutions, another Victini spawned, but this time I accidentally killed it. Doesn't really matter because we already have one, but I'll take the Flame Orb and the Incense it dropped. I went back to exploring and found another ultimate Heracross boss. This time I was able to defeat it because of my Luxray's Intimidate, so that it could do less damage to me, and we got ourselves our very own Heracross Mega Stone. I immediately used it on a very rare spawn Primarina that I found, and I also managed to capture that one. Then I found Cloth doing the Crab Rave. But my luck wasn't over yet. A mega epic Swampert boss spawned right next to me, which means we might be able to mega evolve our starter if we manage to beat it. For some reason, the Swampert couldn't hit my Kofagrigus, and I just burned it and used a couple of nightshades to defeat it with some cheese and get my very own Swampertide. In the desert, I found an Arceus shrine. Don't really know how to activate it yet, and I highly doubt in 100 days we'll be able to find all the necessary items to do so. We are in fact 47 days in, which means we're almost halfway through it, but we still got a lot of things to do. I defeated an epic Volcarona boss battle. Sadly enough, I wasn't able to capture it, but I was able to evolve my shiny Staravia into shiny Staraptor with the beautiful blue beak. Which means Flygon Airlines is probably going to get boxed, and we're going to go with a new company named Staraptor Airlines. The next couple of days were spent capturing more Pokemon and defeating more raid dens up until a legendary Groudon spawned right on top of me. And Groudon is actually my second favorite legendary, so I'm super happy if we manage to get this and don't find a Rayquaza. Luckily, I was able to weaken it with my Swampert's Rock Slides, and the rest of my Pokemon could luckily survive long enough so that I could lob Ultra Balls at it and finally add it to the team. It does have a minus speed nature, which isn't too great, but we did manage to find another Fire-type gym in the process. Since we do already have this gym badge, it doesn't really matter if we defeat it, but I decided to do so anyway for the TR. And so we got our second Volcano badge. I then struggled with throwing a Pokeball at this epic Vivillon boss for like 10 minutes. And then I found a weird looking mine, which turned out to be another gym. At the top of it, we luckily found another gym leader with really weak Pokemon up to like level 26, so this was another easy gym badge for us, namely the Coal badge. I think this is my 5th one, so we got 3 more to go. I then found a time, space, and distortion altar, which you can use to spawn either Dialga, Palkia, or Giratina. I currently only have the Grisius Orb, but once again, I do have to find that red chain if I want to spawn him in. So we're definitely going to be on the lookout for that. While I was flying over the ocean, of course, a shiny Magikarp had to spawn in. And somehow, someway, I didn't manage to find it once again. This really hurt my soul because shiny Magikarp is once again gold and actually beautiful, even though it's probably the most common shiny people get. I did in fact manage to find an Ultimate Sharpedo boss, but this was a little bit too strong for me, and I once again got my ass whooped. I might have not found a shiny Magikarp, but I did find this really cool house Magikarp, I guess that's what it is, which reminds me of the Magikarp boat that Team Rocket used to use back in the day of the anime. If anybody needs some cooling off, I found this fan, but that wasn't all. I also found my first ever Pokeloot, and it was a Master Ball Pokeloot with an Eviolite in it. So if I ever don't want to fully evolve a Pokemon, I got a way to make them more bulky. I also found my favorite baby Pokemon, Elekid, in a raid den, as well as a graveyard, which was pretty useless. The only thing that was there were some ghost Pokemon. I also stumbled upon the biggest ravine I've ever seen in my life. It was like the Grand Canyon of Pokemon, and underneath it was a raid den, so I knew a really cool Pokemon had to be in there. Sadly enough, I only found a horse that was on fire. While I was fighting even more raid dens, a legendary Hoopa spawned in the desert. So I went after it, tried to weaken it with my Flygon's Dragon Rush, and I managed to somehow one-shot it because this Hoopa has the worst defense stat ever. I was very upset about that one and dug myself a hole and drowned myself in some sand. I also took revenge on another camera boss, netting myself another Mega Stone, and of course, Mega Scizors are not safe around me anymore, as I'm trying to wipe out the entire population. While I was showing off my beautiful collection of items, another Victini spawned in my vicinity, but this time it was just too small and I couldn't find it in the tall grass. Not that I would have captured it anyway, I just wish a cooler legendary or mythical would spawn around me. I sent some more Mega Scizors packing and got an Alpha Shard out of one of them, which you can use to summon Kyogre if you get 9 of them. But they're a really rare drop, so I don't think I'll be able to get 9 of those. Then it was time to finally build my very own house, so I started breaking down the Pokemon Center bit by bit, but don't worry, its materials won't go to waste because I decided to use the red wool as my new floor. While I was building, we got another shiny spawn. This time it was definitely not that amazing, another shiny Starly, but I managed to capture it anyway, which brings our shiny total up to 5. I then went back to construction and finished the house shortly after. I'm definitely not a master builder or anything, so it's a very basic house, but it works. And at least it's cozy for me to live in. I also planted a full circle around my lake of apricots so that I can make even more balls. I then got myself a Kangaskongite as well and defeated another Scizor. I went back to Ultra Space, found some more loot and a really cool biome that I'd never seen before with like these weird pillars sticking out of the ground. And despite it looking cool, I didn't really find any cool Pokemon there. So I went back to the main world to check up on our day count and we're now at day 66. And because I've already defeated so many bosses and raid dens, I had racked up a very impressive 28 total rare candies. And my Staraptor right there is level 73, so I decided to use all of them to get my second level 100 Pokemon, and I'm pretty damn proud that it's a shiny. Speaking of shiny Pokemon, I was once again near my house while a shiny Torchic spawned in somewhere, and Torchic is once again really damn small. And you know which problem I'm going to bring up again, the tall grass. I could not find this Torchic for the life of me. I would have loved a shiny Blaziken, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. I couldn't find it anywhere, and that is another shiny fail added to our total. I can almost make a team out of my failed shinies, which I'm not proud of, by the way. So I went for a midnight stroll on Staraptor and managed to find a Pokemon Tower once again just with some ghost types in it, but at the end there was a hidden Pokeloot which gave me a Choice Scarf, a really useful item for competitive but not for just roaming around in Minecraft Pixelmon. I stumbled upon my third Earth Gem as well, and while I was fighting some trainers, a Mega Banette spawned in, which is a boss that I'd never seen before, so I knew I had to take it out and take its Banetite off of it. And it also gave us an Alpha Shard, so maybe we'll be able to get that Kyogre anyway. I was able to take on the gym again, grab another Earth Badge, flew over the ocean to find a Pokemon Center in the middle of it, which is, I guess, pretty cool. I also found 3 covered fossils, which I might be able to resurrect if I get the right materials, but that's not something I'm going to worry about too much. While I was jumping around on my Groudon, yeah, you heard that right, I battled another gym leader, but as I was battling him, another Victini spawned. Yes, the 4th one. This definitely makes me hate Victini more, so I just earthquaked him again. Then we went back to the gym to grab the Mineral Badge, which was a badge I hadn't gotten before. And guess what? We went flying around again, found another shiny. This time it was a Zubat, and I found a horde of Zubats, but somehow it wasn't in there. And you guessed it, another shiny fail. I think I might be the worst shiny hunter out there. But once again, we're going to try to not let it affect us too much. And instead, I found this gigantic Bibarel, and I really wanted to capture it, but I misclicked and killed it. So then I went on a catching spree, grabbing a Dreadnought, a really cool Noivern, and tried to get the Crobat, but it managed to get out of my ball. And as I was doing another raid den, this time in the ocean, a shiny Wishiwashi spawned. And I somehow managed to spot it right away. I did have to chase after it for a couple of minutes before I was able to catch up with it. But eventually I was able to get my 6th shiny team member. And honestly, when it turns into its school form, it looks really cool with the gold and the blue. Right after I captured this Wishiwashi, a Manaphy spawned somewhere in the ocean, and I looked around, once again, couldn't find it. I don't know if this is worse than a shiny fail, but that's another mythical that we couldn't add to our dex total. I did manage to defeat another Mega Sharpedo and grab its Megastone though, but it drops on the seafloor, which meant I couldn't even get it. I also found a really cool looking shrine, which I still have no idea what it summons, but I saved its coordinates, and if I ever find out, we can come back here. And we're now 75 days in, so 3/4 of the way there. Once again found a steel type gym right after and grabbed another mine badge, but then a legendary Lugia spawned somewhere in a raid den in the ocean biome, so I went looking and managed to find one. I somehow managed to defeat it in battle, threw my Ultra Ball at it because I had nothing better on me, and of course, it came out. And since you only get one chance at capturing a raid den Pokemon, we failed another legendary. We did, however, grab another Earth badge from a gym I once again found randomly, defeated a Mega Houndoom that was terrorizing a village, and straight after a Mega Blaziken. So if I managed to capture that shiny Torchic, I could have now had a shiny Mega Blaziken. Guess what? I was swimming around in the ocean again, which means time for another shiny fail. This time it was a Finneon that got away from me. Luckily, Finneon is one of the most forgettable Pokemon ever, so I'm not too sad that I missed out on this. And like 5 seconds later, while I was checking up on a desert temple, another shiny spawned, and guess what? I failed it again! Another Magikarp failed. Let's go. I am definitely not having a mental breakdown right now. I then went and terrorized some more Mega Pokemon, including a Mega Gengar and Kangaskhan, and after I was done with that, I did my first ever mining session because I needed some iron ore, because I needed to make myself a flint and steel so that I could open up my first Nether portal. After jumping in, I spawned on top of a full pool of lava, and I was stuck in the ceiling, so I couldn't even move. I was struggling so hard to get on my Staraptor and try to fly into the Nether to check everything out that I fell off of him and into the lava. Yeah, you can definitely call me a Minecraft noob. Of course, I'm not giving up, so I went back to the Nether, but I was still stuck. And while I was stuck there, a shiny Zubat spawned somewhere near me. I couldn't get out in time, and it probably despawned because I once again could not find it. I did explore a Nether fortress that I found, but we didn't really get anything useful out of it, so I decided to go back to my portal, but I had flown so far that I couldn't find it, so I just dropped myself into the lava so I could get back home and never come back here again. And once I was back on my trusty mainland, I saw a thick little thing in a tree. It was a Mega Venusaur boss, and the reward I got from defeating this was absolutely insane. I got a Park Ball, which might not seem that great, but it's basically a reskin of a Master Ball. So next time I battle a legendary, it's a guarantee that I capture it. And my prayers were answered immediately. As I was talking to a move tutor, a legendary Rayquaza spawned in the extreme hills. So I jumped on my Staraptor and immediately managed to find it. I wasn't playing around, so I did decide to throw a couple of Ultra Balls at it first to try and capture it that way, but ultimately I did have to use my Park Ball, but we finally managed to get my favorite legendary Rayquaza on the team. Which also means we'll be changing our flight company once again to Rayquaza Airlines. Oh yeah, and I also managed to get my Groudon up to level 100, how about that? Totally didn't forget to mention that. I also finally decided to check my Pokedex for the first time ever, and it seemed like I've only captured 71 Pokemon, so we still got around 30 more to go. But before we go and capture some more Pokemon, I did run into an Ampharos again. This time my Groudon was able to defeat it, so that we can finally get our very own shiny Mega Ampharos. I then accidentally ate a berry, which gave me a weird looking effect, and that killed me. Luckily, it wasn't too far away from my house, and I had installed a mod that would drop my body on the floor so I could just access it and grab my items again. We still aren't done bullying the Scizors, so we take out another one. And then we go back to Ultra Space and somehow found a gym in Ultra Space, which also I didn't know was possible. He had level 15 Pokemon though, so our big Wishy-Washy swept through it pretty quickly, and then we get another useless mine badge from him. Then I finally spent some time capturing useless Pokemon out of raid dens, and I also found my very first snow biome. And in said snow biome, we found another shrine that I definitely didn't use. I also found the cutest little igloo, so of course I had to break in there and make it my second home, because I was about to die, and if I died, I wanted to be able to grab my stuff again. So I slept in that bed, which changed my spawn point from my regular house to this house, and that might have been the biggest mistake of my life. You'll later see why, but first we grab another shiny Pokemon, this time a second Mareep, which was very easy to spot and capture. Sadly enough, we already have an Ampharos, so I won't be training this up. I did find a really cool ice biome with these towers of blocks of ice sticking out, and while I was in there, another legendary spawned. This time it was a Glastrier, a Pokemon that I've personally never used before. This made me even more excited because I had no idea what kind of stats it had, but I wasn't fully stocked up on Pokeballs, which meant I wasn't able to capture it. Pixelmon definitely tried to make it up to me by spawning in a Mega Metagross right after, which I was able to take out and grab the Mega Stone from, and then day 90 approached, which meant we were almost done with our 100-day journey. So then I finally found a random village, bought some Pokeballs and Great Balls there, and then I went into a desert temple. And I accidentally stepped on the switch at the bottom, which blew me up. And I had no idea where I was, so there was no way for me to retrieve my items. And worst of all, I didn't even spawn at my house, I spawned at the stupid igloo. I was then trying to find my way back home, and while I did not have any Pokeballs at all, a legendary Terrakion spawned near me. Luckily, I couldn't even find it, because otherwise I had to just knock it out. Luckily, on my way home, I did find another shop, and this time I bought enough Ultra Balls. Once we were finally back in familiar territory, I started bullying the local Scizors again, grabbed myself another stupid Earth badge that I don't need anymore, grabbed a couple more Pokemon, and eventually had racked up enough rare candies to also level up my Rayquaza to level 100. That's 4 Pokemon down, so let's hope that we find even more rare candies in the last couple of days to get 2 more. While I didn't find that much rare candies, I did find a Volcanion that spawned in a raid den. I didn't have my Pokeball anymore, and I didn't find a Master Ball, so after defeating it, I just prayed that it would stay in my Ultra Ball, but of course it didn't. So we failed another amazing Pokemon. I did find another Coal badge, so even though we don't have 8 different gym badges yet, we definitely have more than 8 now. Then I went back home and decided to do some stone evolutions, so I got myself an Alolan Ninetales, a really cool looking Hisuian Arcanine, as well as Cyrus's Honchkrow. Let me also show off the Pokemon I've captured so far in my boxes right here. And then I defeated another Kangaskhan boss, and he gave me a Master Ball, so I went out hunting again for either a shiny or a legendary straight after. Before I found one of those, I captured an Abomination, aka Crabominable. I also defeated a Mega Beedrill boss, and then I went so far away from home that I eventually ran into a Psychic type gym, which would be the last gym badge I need. I tried to go in from the front, but it was just full of these invisible walls, and I just couldn't find my way through. So I just went out again and mined my way through the top and broke into this gym leader's building. FBI, open up! It took me a couple of tries before I could beat him, but once I did, he gave me my very last gym badge, the Marsh badge. I then also found a really rare legendary Lucario boss, and with all of my ground types I was easily able to defeat it with some earthquakes. So that's a Lucarionite also added to my Megastone collection. And we aren't done finding rare Pokemon, no, I also found a Duraludon, and after defeating it, it gave me 2 diamonds. So if you see one of those in the wild, definitely go and knock it out. We were approaching on one of the final days, day 97, so I decided to check my Pokedex again, and luckily we are at 101 Pokemon found, so we have also completed that challenge. But we weren't done capturing Pokemon, no, I found myself a really cool Blastoise, and as I was flying and looking at this beautiful sunset, a legendary Cobalion spawned, and I knew this was the perfect opportunity to use my Master Ball, so I went looking around. Even though it wasn't a forest, I still managed to find it It came out of all of my Ultra Balls, so ultimately I had to throw my Master Ball and add this legendary to the team as well. Before I headed back home for the final day, I ran into a raid den with a Milotic in it. I absolutely love Milotic, and I know it's one of the rarest Pokemon to get, and of course I wasn't putting my hopes too high of capturing it, but somehow it stayed in the Ultra Ball, and this just made me very, very happy. Then I was exploring the ocean and I found a weird stronghold at the bottom of it, and of course while I was exploring I got stuck in a wall and died. And of course I still hadn't slept in my bed at home, so we're back at the igloo. Since it was now day 99, I spent my last day backtracking to my house, and just before it hit day 100, I spent all my last rare candies on leveling up my Wishy-Washy to level 100 as well. I also crafted a fossil cleaner on the last day, and the fossils that I managed to uncover apparently were a Lileep, a Tyrant, and also a Tirtuga, but we're now at day 100. And as we end it off here, I of course want to show off all my amazing Pokemon I found. Look at the legendaries. They definitely helped me out defeating a bunch of bosses and raid dens. We can't forget the beautiful shiny Pokemon that we got as well. We got some amazing ones. Sadly enough, 2 of them were duplicates. We also say goodbye to our little Starly, which couldn't fit in with the other shinies because he was my 7th one. We also say goodbye to possibly the rarest Pokemon we found, Milotic. And we couldn't have done this without our 2 OGs, Swampert and Flygon. I myself was super happy doing this challenge. I absolutely love Pixelmon. So if you want to see more videos on Pixelmon, definitely let me know in the comments down below. The only challenge I wasn't able to complete was my level 100 team. We were just 1 off of that one, but I promise next time I play, I will put more effort into that. But I just had so much fun exploring this entire world. With all of that out of the way, I of course want to thank my membership and Patreon supporters for supporting the channel. If you want to do so yourself, you can click the links in the description. It is always appreciated but not needed. And as always people, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. I'm zwiggojr, and I'll see you guys next time.